Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Emotional Eating Unwrapped. I'm your host, Alana Kessler, and today I am so excited. I already cried a little bit in our pre interview. So I am bringing on a guest today, and this woman is just a dream. She's an inspiration. She is my client. She's now my friend. I have observed her transform her entire life. And we talk about what the sober eating method does for your life, what incorporating that method, what healing from emotional eating does for your life, for the quality of your relationships, for the quality of your self-worth. This woman exemplifies every single value and every single tenet of what healing using the sober eating method does. And I'm bringing her on here today to literally talk about from soup to nuts her entire journey. And she's going to share all of this today with you. And I feel like oftentimes when we bring clients on or we have testimonials from clients, you only see a small glimpse into the life change. And a lot of times it's physical. A lot of times we show before and after photos of weight, of body. A lot of times we try to talk about how our lives are different. But when you hear how this woman went from one version of a life to a completely up-leveled new version of life, incorporating all of her goals, dreams, and desires in less than a year, I think you are going to be completely blown away. So I'm actually going to introduce her as her married name since she got married, I think a week and a half ago, right before the new year.
Mhm.
Mrs. Tina McSweeney. And Tina, welcome. So happy to see you. So happy to have you on today. Thank you so much for sharing your story, being vulnerable. And I know everyone is going to be so blown away and inspired.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm just pleased to be here, and I can't believe where I am and looking back to where I started with you and how I was back then to now in a year. It's insane, actually.
I want to hear. I want you to go into it. So I really want to give you the floor. This is just going to be super like casual, unstructured conversation. I really feel like there's no need to really have a structure. I just feel like your journey is so like amazing and inspirational and speaks to what it is when you commit to yourself and when you do the work and you move through hard things and you receive and ask for support. So just let's go. Let's get started. Let's talk about when we first met.
Okay, yeah, I guess the first time I stumbled across your Instagram page, a lot of stuff that you said resonated with me. And I even saw things that you said affect me then, just the way that I was eating and kind of taking a step back and noticing, like, hey, there's something different about this. And it just really spoke to me. And I kind of did see effects already then. And I just kept getting hooked. I guess I want more and I want to get more into your brain. And I just took baby steps and did the little courses and then started working one on one with you and meeting you. It was hard because you spoke the truth, and I don't know that anyone that wants to go on this journey, when you really want change, it's gonna hurt in the beginning. I guess that's the best way to say it. There's just pain that comes along with it, kind of just because you have to be real and look at yourself in the mirror and accept that a lot of what you are and who you are a result of the choices that you've made. It's not always like someone else's fault, because I think a lot of emotional eaters, I don't know, I don't want to make generalizations, but it could be a lot of the victim mentality. And I think, I hated to say it, I was like stuck in a rut. And I didn't even know that I was emotional eating. So it's not like, hey, I'm looking for an emotional eating coach, but that is exactly what I found. But it was so much more than that. I mean, it just, blew my mind how I was using food, but it wasn't about the food. It was just covering up whatever things in my life I was unhappy about or whatever needs that I was ignoring, always putting myself last. And I think that could be a big characteristic of emotional eaters, like putting yourself last and then kind of soothing yourself with food. And
Hmm.
uh, and a big part of the journey was it was hard. It was like it was triggering, just starting it and kind of like especially beginning the one-on-one coaching where it's just kind of more there's bringing everything to the light. So there was nothing working with you was like let me just be real and here's my stuff. Here's what I ate, even though I felt shame a lot of times. Like it just needed to be done. And I mean, it took getting over these initial barriers of like the shame or feeling afraid to really bear it all. But it it really yielded the best results.
Yeah. And I want to hear you mentioned you were in a rut.
Yeah.
And I feel like I want to get a little bit more granular about that because definitely when we when we talk about this stuff and post on social media, or there are certain terms that I think a lot of people use and are very general, right? Like stuck in a rut, stuck, um, putting myself last, really not uh, not living the life of my dreams, right? Where were you when we first met, and what did you want? Right?
I
What did you
remember,
want? Yeah.
yeah, I just remember coming to you and being like, the number one thing was like, I really want friends. Like, I don't know, I moved to a new city, I moved to Florida, and I just hadn't found my tribe or like a real friend group or support group. And that felt like a big gaping hole. So that was something like I brought up, and had always wanted a relationship, and I was watching others kind of thrive, and I was like kind of coaching people in a sense or giving advice and watching their relationships thrive, and I was like, well, what about me? So I was always like giving of myself, which was great, but then at the same time, I was still, had that longing for myself. So I think those were the two things I came to you wanting, like a romantic relationship, but as well, like same sex female friendships, like close friendships.
And how do you feel like this was connected with your relationship with food and eating? How did you what was the light bulb moment where you realized, or just light bulb time where you realized that wow, my, like, the emotional eating, the extra, I think it was like 25 pounds that you really wanted to lose,
Hmm.
that you ended up losing more eventually.
Hmm.
um how did you make the connection between the emotional eating, the unwanted weight gain, and then these desires that you had for intimacy, connection, and just forging relationships, and fulfilling, having a fulfilled emotional life as well as physical results?
Yeah, I guess it's hard to say. I don't know that I made the connections right away. As an emotional eater, the food just covered up everything. So the kind of pairing back of like under not necessarily pairing back, but like recognizing that emotional eating was occurring and then trying to dig deeper and understand those emotions and those needs created a space. So, and at the same time, I was creating boundaries. So the dynamics of my relationships before were unhealthy because there were no boundaries. And there was a dynamic of putting myself last. So it was being an inauthentic self.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of getting into the root of, okay, yeah, I'm not being perfect. Like it's not like, oh, I stopped emotional eating, but understanding I am emotional eating, just being real about that, acknowledging that, then coming to terms with my emotions and needs and having boundaries around food, like saying, hey, I'm not going to eat until I get sick, or I'm not going to eat this cheeseburger just because I feel like it's maybe not the best choice. those boundaries just bled into everything else, for lack of a better word. Like it just started creating boundaries with other people in my existing relationships. And then I found that those, not to sound selfish, but the relationships didn't serve me, or just it was coming from like the old me, maybe the inauthentic self.
Mm-hmm.
And I just created a space. So, but before that space came, there was like grieving. So there's just a time of grieving, and I was like, it's never going to go away. And I remember you encouraging me and saying, like, you're doing great. And that really helped me because I was like, she believes in me, and like, she's not worried. Because I was like, it's the end of the world or whatever. It just like felt so like
What
overwhelming.
what felt like the end of the world? Because I feel like this is such an important thing to talk about. Like, what what felt so like such a great way to put it, like the end of the world.
I think just ending that old false shell of self, like that was operating kind of blindly in the world, like kind of denying myself, denying my feelings, and then engaging in relationships and then wondering why they were so unsatisfying. And part of it was because I was not being honest with myself or honest with the other person at the same time.
Can you give a specific example of that and how you maybe and how your relationship with food overlapped with that?
Yeah, I guess a lot of it has to do with like energies. That's my first thought. So that's something I learned with you, like being in the masculine versus feminine energy. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of my energy used to be more masculine. So I was making things happen, pursuing relationships, and in particular with men, that dynamic, and I found for what I'm looking for and my needs, that does not work,
Mm-hmm.
meaning it just creates a weird dynamic that's kind of off where the man, it's like two masculines, it just
Mm-hmm.
doesn't complement one another. And I think the food was just there as a cushion to kind of soothe me and help me in my disappointments because nothing was like really working out
Right. So you were
as I
like
had wanted.
right. So you were like chasing. There
Hmm.
was a lot of like overthinking, over
A
functioning,
lot of energy.
right? A lot of like thinking ahead, making sure, hyper vigilance potentially about like what was going to happen. Um,
Hmm.
and the food kind of soothed that for you,
Yeah.
soothed that like anxious energy.
Yes. And
Hmm.
I think it's like interesting to note when I first started with you way back when, I was afraid because I was like, I kind of recognize, even though I didn't think of myself as an emotional eater, I would never describe myself as one. I did acknowledge that I had anxiety and that the food was potentially like a medication for that.
Hmm.
Even though I don't want over the counter, I don't want any medicine, but it was kind of like my meds in a way. Like I'll have that cookie, I'll feel better. So carrying that extra 15, whatever, 20 pounds, that's my protection and it's curing me, whatever in my head. So I said,
Yeah.
what if I join this? What am I going to do with anxiety? It's going to become unbearable. I won't have any outlet. Like, what am I going to do? So there was a sense of like panic too, where that kind of contributed to the like end of the world feeling. And what I did realize was that my anxiety was going down as a result of not engaging in as much emotional eating as before. So then I was like,
Can you speak to that a little bit more?
yeah, I just noticed that when you eat when you're not hungry, and as I've learned in your course, like it messes with your body's chemistry and it just, all the extra sugar or whatever, even sugary drinks, caffeinated drinks, desserts, because I tend to be more of a sweets person and indulge in that. Well, that does something. It messes with your body and it would create anxiety unnecessarily. I was like putting it on myself, but I thought I was using it to like escape, but it was actually creating more. It was like a double whammy.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And then when you When you started to change your behaviors,
Mhm.
where did the motivation and the faith? You are a very faith-based person, I know that. But
Yes.
where did the faith come to stop doing some behaviors, to put up the boundaries? What were some of the ways you raised your standards in your life? And what gave you that faith to know that this would work, that this will work for you? And then how did you start to see it working for you?
I would say what gave me the faith to know that it would work would even be just from those beginnings when I looked at your free content on Instagram and seeing that kind of, start to work for me and feel kind of better about myself. And then kind of in engaging further in it, looking at the feedback loop, like how do I feel? And just
Mhm.
knowing I feel better. That was undeniable. So every day of like recording that and journaling that and realizing like, okay, putting into practice, changing my ways around food is resulting in me feeling better. And then as a result, my standards just naturally rose because who doesn't want to feel good? Everyone
Right.
wants to feel good. So it's kind of like easy. And the faith just kind of, as I kept taking those little, it was like baby steps, then it just kept growing. And then I just became like a new person. And it was freaky.
Tell me some of the initial ways that you knew that your identity and you were changing. What were some of those initial results?
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Going back when I would say like one of the big things was not just the weight. Okay. Yeah. I got scared. I was like 155 and I told you I want to be like 147 because I remember I was 147 after a breakup and someone said, "You look so great. You look like you have no fat." So that was completely external, something validation. And I ended up going to like 142 with you for a while. And I was kind of scared, like, hey, this is like lower than what I said. So I kind of felt a little out of control. So I needed you there and I had you there to kind of help stabilize me and say, okay, you're doing good. It's fine. It's nothing to be alarmed about. And the weight kept actually dropping further after that. And I went down to 135. And I think things I noticed, like, I don't know if I mentioned already, but just the confidence that comes with honoring yourself, honoring your goals, setting boundaries and standards. When you start to do it with food, you do it with relationships. Like it's not compartmentalized. It kind of how you are in one area kind of extends into all the other areas of your life. And I remember speaking up in a meeting at work where normally I get really tight, tense, and do not want to speak. But then I just went ahead and spoke, whatever, on a Zoom meeting, and I wasn't as timid. And I just was like, wait, who's that person? And I remember telling you, like, hey, so it was really nice that the confidence just like came naturally. I mean, that's huge. And I maybe had not stated that to you, but that was like one of my desires. Like, I want more female friendships, I want a romantic relationship, and I want to be more confident. And that was definitely one of my desires, and that happened. But it just it I guess what's funny about it, it just happened naturally. It just evolved. So
Mhm.
I just didn't realize like how much of a lie that food, the lie that I was believing about food, like whatever, that it was helping with like my anxiety, that it was fine what I was doing. I'll just go work out. I'll lose this weight, and just kind of just being in this like, I don't know, it's like being on the hamster wheel and just like not being satisfied. And it's just, I would say it's like believing a lie or you just in some kind of spell. And I know that I had brain fog. I didn't know that then, only until I stopped engaging with food as my coping mechanism as much. Then I realized, hey, I was in brain fog because now I feel clear. And I was in brain fog. It's kind of scary. I was in brain fog for so long that I didn't
Mhm.
even like really know it.
Yeah, that's such a true point. I feel like people can get so comfortable and familiar with what brain fog feels like. It just feels like a natural state.
Yeah,
And the beauty of awakening out of that state, it's almost like magical.
definitely. It's life changing.
And so when you were losing the weight, creating the boundaries, lifting your standards, did you notice that food became less of the focal point? Like it wasn't like how was your like what was your eating like? Like did it feel restrictive? Did it feel like you were focusing on food? Cuz I remember there became a point where, and this is what I really want people to understand, where so much of the work ends up not even being focused on food, right? It's not even focused on like we're not harping and focusing so much on food. You were eating whatever you liked, really, right?
Hmm. Yeah, this is true. I think what happened is after I was starting to, become aware of all of my tendencies to turn to food, then, like you said, I realized it's not so much about the food, and it was about like my goals and different things that I wanted in life and kind of putting the energy towards that instead of food. So it
Mm-hmm.
was more about being aware of like what I wanted to be in life and kind of taking steps towards that instead of kind of being in this weird like brain fog phase where I'm not really accomplishing much and feeling anxious about it because of that. And I think at first, when I started with you, I would become food fixated, but then it was just becoming aware I was doing that to kind of avoid doing more of the work that I needed to do, the inner work to kind of move forward. And a lot of it is just becoming aware and being honest with yourself. Like, this is what I want. Like, because I feel like, in today's culture, it's just like, oh, accept your body as it is. But it's okay to have goals and say, I want to lose weight. There's nothing wrong with that. And I
Mm-hmm.
think maybe before I wasn't being like open, like, yeah, I want to lose weight. But then I could finally just be honest with myself, like, yeah, I'm not happy at this weight. So just going to be real about that. And then I think what's beautiful is when I started working with you, yeah, the food is, it doesn't, it's just like a relief. It's just like a burden lifted because the food is not the primary focus. It actually becomes kind of boring. It's like, oh, I just got to eat. Not that, and I still enjoy food, don't get me wrong, but it did become like, okay, it's just a thing you got to do to live, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not saying there's still enjoyment for sure in food, but yeah, it's definitely, this is not a diet. This is like what I try to explain to people. A diet makes you kind of feel restricted. No, I never do. I never feel restricted. There's boundaries, of course, and I want to feel good. So I eat accordingly, but I do eat what I want, and that's what's amazing. I go on vacation, come back, like I didn't gain a pound. Like it's incredible. And I eat a lot on the vacations, by the way, because I want to try all of the regional foods and different things. So it's pretty cool.
Amazing. I love it. I love it. I want to hear now. We talked so much about where you were. Let's talk about where you are now. Let's talk about, and you just shared you going on vacation, you eat whatever you want, your weight is stable,
Hmm.
and I just want to hear where your life is now and and in your own words, what has changed the most and how you feel about yourself.
Well, a big thing I thought about it. It sounds trivial, but it's not. It means so much to me to be able to wear the clothes that I want to wear and just put it on and not think this is a fat dress or the fat clothes or whatever. Like when I'm not feeling so great, let me just wear this or that. And like having different outfits and having to worry about it, or even in regards to travel, like, well, if I gain some weight, I better bring this like other loose fitting clothing. Now it's kind of like I don't have to worry about these like fluctuations. It's very very consistent, and I'm down from, like a size 8 to a size 4, and I'm really proud of that, and I'm really happy about it. I'm happy, so happy to be wearing the clothes I want to wear. It means a lot. And
Mhm.
I feel it's like before all of this, before this journey to healing, I really was always looking in the mirror and looking for perfection, which we know is just like toxic. It's like undue pressure that no human can handle because we're not perfect. But being on the journey of healing, I realized like I don't have to be perfect. I'm not perfect, but I can still love myself. So it's just like a self acceptance, knowing that I'm not perfect, but I'm being true to myself while
Mhm.
honoring my body, honoring my goals, eating what I want, of course, and just like enjoying it. So
Oh,
it's just like being in my skin, being comfortable. I don't know. That's priceless, not looking in the mirror and being like, ew, and just being like, this is my body. You've done so much for me. You're so like healthy, and just being more grateful and just, I would say, positive body image all the way is the biggest takeaway I've had.
I love that. I love that so much. And from the other goals that you had in your life, where are you with those?
So when I came to you, of course, I was like looking for friends, and I had that gaping hole, and I had been looking for a romantic relationship, but I had a kind of, I would say, an unrealistic or twisted perception. I was looking for kind of a savior, but I didn't really want to admit that. But you kind of brought that out of me, and I realized, okay, no one's going to save me. I got to do the work myself. I really don't want a savior, whatever that looks like. And I'm going to work on healing myself. And I kept thinking of like that movie where it's like, I think it's Field of Dreams or something. And it's like, build it and they will come. Like, you can just work on yourself. You can't really control anyone else, but you can control yourself. And I just kept working away, plugging away, even though I wasn't sure of the outcome. Like, I wasn't like, yeah, I'm going to be guaranteed friends and a boyfriend. But no, in the end, it's like, I got friends. There was this space where, I met female friends that were on my same page and they want to cultivate a relationship. They recognize that we have a lot in common, and it's just nice to be, I think, the commonality there, being on the same page. It's not like me begging them for their attention or their friendship. It's like a mutual thing, and
Hmm.
it's wonderful. And then at the same time, I met my boyfriend and we got married in like probably less than 6 months. But being in our ages, like in our early 40s, like we just kind of know what we want. And, there's no time like today to start living the rest of your life. And I don't know, I don't know. I kind of blink. Honestly, I don't know that it's really settled in quite yet. I'm like, whoa, is this my life? Like, I just gotta kind of accept the new reality. And it's a wonderful reality, but it's just insane what can happen if you invest in yourself and believe in yourself and do the work. And the inner work is not always easy. I always say, oh, it's not for the faint of heart. And yeah, it's not about restricting yourself, not about dieting, this and that. It's about changing your whole mindset, really.
Your whole mindset, your whole identity, and then
Hmm.
also doing the work that you did to not self-sabotage, right? To really
Yeah.
believe that you're worthy of this new identity and let the goodness be your reality. I think something that is hard for people to do is to actually embody and live within this success. And you're doing such an amazing job of appreciating and being grateful. And it's not just about achieving success, it's about embodying the success for sustainable long term. I think as a culture, we're very used to chasing achievements and goals and everything like that. But it's like, what do we do when we get the goals that we wanted, that we deeply desired? Yeah. I mean, did you find any of that for yourself, or how are you feeling about everything now?
Yeah, I guess back way back when I started with you, I remember the self-sabotage. I guess I forgot about it, but I remember that being a thing, just not being, I don't know where it comes from. Yeah, I guess it's the feelings of the self-worth and like growing into your new identity and realizing like I am worthy of this. And the self-sabotage becomes an anomaly, like an enemy. It's not normal anymore. But before it used to be the normal. But the new normal is no, I'm grateful. I realized what it took to get here and I'm gonna honor myself. And the decisions that I make in my life affect everyone else in my life too, and affect the people I love. So when I make decisions that are good for me, they're generally good for the other people in my life that are closest to me as well.
Ah, I feel like just got chills hearing that. So I feel like that's such a great place to end our conversation. Um, Again, I'm just so proud of you. I'm so grateful to know you, to have been on this journey with you, to have your trust in this journey. I know that we're going to be connected for life. So, I'm looking forward to seeing more photos and hearing more about your ongoing self-love and just everything you're doing in your life. And yeah, it's just, do you have any last words, anything that you want to share?
I just want to say for anyone out there that is listening to this and thinks that it's hopeless, it's not. Like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. There is hope out there, and you just really need to believe in yourself. I really didn't think I would change this much in 1 year to become kind of from a negative person to a positive person, where to become, being unsure of myself to now being super confident, from being single for like forever. And then now I'm married. And then being someone who never stated their needs to right now, yeah, I'm working on it. I'm not perfect at it, but I'm actually stating more of my needs without shame. So just want to put that out there to anyone that needs to hear some encouragement. Invest in yourself and believe in yourself and do the work and, build it and they will come.
Well, thank you. True words never been more spoken. And thank you so much, Tina. And thank you to everyone listening to this today. Don't forget that I am back every week for the most part with new episodes on how to overcome emotional eating, how to lose weight with sustainable, lasting change. So don't forget to review, subscribe, share this podcast with your friends, family, anybody who can benefit from this inspiring message. And until next time, I'm Alana, and thank you for listening to Emotional Eating Unwrapped.